Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, if you could just hit that subscribe button down below, that would really help me out. Today's video is going to be about Nick Hammond. We'll explain who he is in a minute. He's the man in the thumbnail, but first of all, let's talk about what happened in the week. So first off, we heard that Stuart Webber, who was one of the prime candidates to get the director of football role at Leeds, had stepped down from his role at Norwich. So everybody thought naturally that he's going to come to Elland Road, and that hasn't materialised because we have got Nick Hammond. So Nick Hammond, then, he is a 55-year-old football advisor, a temporary football advisor. He was at Reading for 20 years, then he went to West Brom, and then he spent a little bit of time at Celtic as well. At Celtic, he signed Christopher Julian and Mohamed El Yunusi before El Yunusi went to Southampton, and he was well received there because those players did really well. Apparently, when Christopher Julian was out of the team, the form of the defence completely nosedived. And so obviously his signings were well received. He then signed David Turnbull from Motherwell, who then became the goalkeeper, and then he signed Shane Duffy on loan from Brighton as well, which was a really good signing for Celtic. So he has a bit of a track record with this sort of thing, and when he went to Newcastle, that was also as a sort of interim football advisor when the new takeover just happened, and he was responsible for Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, Bruno Guimaraes, and Chris Wood, I think, was one of them as well, and Matt Targett on loan. So basically 4 out of 5 transfers really worked, and you could argue that the Chris Wood one worked as well because it relegated Burnley, really, and it ensured that Newcastle could stay up and build on that, and they've got so much money that they could actually think it's probably worth it to pay £25 million to relegate a relegation rival. So then he does have a track record of coming into a club and signing some decent players that they need. Now, Celtic, obviously, being in the Scottish League, don't have a massive budget, so he did well on the budget that they did have. Newcastle, obviously, had a lot bigger budget, and he did well as well because he didn't just throw money at everything. It wasn't a ridiculous amount of money, but it was adding that little bit of class to the team with Bruno Guimaraes, and then adding some solidity at the back with Burn and Targett, players which people thought, are they really going to improve Newcastle all that much? But they did, and Newcastle got well clear in the end. And so when he comes in at Elland Road, you'll expect him to be a part of the manager signing process and a part of the interview process, and because he's been at clubs for years and years, he knows exactly what a manager should be doing in these interviews and stuff, so he'll be involved in that process, I would expect. And then also, like you can see from the wanted posters in the thumbnail, he's going to be overseeing the transfers in this window and then in the January window as well. So we could see that he has a similar strategy to what he did at Newcastle, where he basically got in a new spine of the team. He got in a holding midfielder / box-to-box midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes. He got a couple of a centre-back and a left-back, and then he got a striker in as well. Obviously, granted, the striker was Chris Wood and hasn't done excellently since he's been at Newcastle, but the idea was there, and 4 out of 5 of those signings really paid off. So I think it's a really good and smart thing to do from the 49ers. If you can't get what you want, don't just rush and pick somebody else and give them a big contract with loads of money. Just get somebody in to do exactly what this guy does, and he's a specialist in this sort of thing now. After what he did at Newcastle and what he's done at Celtic as well, he's a specialist in doing this sort of thing. And it will help us massively to have somebody in the boardroom who actually knows football and is able to go out there, look at certain championship players, like maybe some of the ones in the thumbnail that I've suggested, and see if he can bring them into Leeds and try and sort of solidify. Obviously, we need a left back. So Ryan Manning is an option from Swansea. He's in the thumbnail. And then maybe a striker as well, because you'd expect Bamford might be on his way out. So Victor Gyökeres, if he doesn't go abroad. And then Hamer as well, a good midfielder all round. So you'd expect to see sort of a spine of signings, I'm going to call it, under this new sort of tutelage of Nick Hammond. So yeah, like I say, I think it's really smart, really intelligent way to run things, and it does sort of give me hope and gives me a lot of good vibes for what the future is going to be under the 49ers. I think they're going to take advice well, and I think they're going to take advice from others, and I think they're really going to make a good fist of this. Now, people are saying it's an investment group, they're only in it for the money. Well, if they are, the only way they're going to make money is by improving us as a club, getting us back to the Premier League, maybe eventually getting us into Europe in a sort of 8 to 10 year time scale, and then selling us when we're worth closer to $1 billion than 100 million. That'll be the plan for them, and obviously they'll have to put some money in for that to happen. They don't just expect it to materialize by itself. So yeah, it's interesting because Leeds really need a bit of guidance now from somebody who knows football, because obviously the 49ers aren't football experts. Angus Kinnear obviously has been involved in football all his life, but not in the way that somebody like Victor Orta was, in terms of actually being hands-on with the scouting team and the recruitment team, who are just watching the videos and doing the analysis, looking at the stats and going and seeing players as well. Nick Hammond's got that kind of experience and got that kind of way of bringing things together that other people at the club at the moment probably don't have. So that's the big news, and I think that's actually really, really positive. And then the other thing is that the retained list was released. I haven't covered this yet. The retained list was released. There was a couple of youth players released and stuff like that. Nothing major in that department. The only thing that caught attention was the release of Adam Forshaw and Joel Robles. Now, Joel Robles was only ever signed on a 1-year contract, but I've been a very big advocate of having him as our number 1 keeper in the Championship. That's if Melier goes, because I think he'd be comfortably one of the best. I've talked about this on Ollie's channel when we talked about who should stay and who should go, but I think Joel Robles is one of those players who really needs to stay at Elland Road. He's positive, he's a leader, he's great in goal, he's great at coming and claiming things and being really positive as a goalkeeper. And so I definitely think he's the sort of player that we should be trying our best to hang on to. Now, when they were released, it says they have been both Forshaw and Robles have been invited back for pre-season training. So to me, that's because we didn't actually have a director of football or actually anybody really in to sign them back on for another contract, really, because everything was up in the air and we were halfway through selling the club when the retained list came out, or just after the club's been sold when the retained list came out. There was not really much time to get them signed back on. So you could expect Adam Forshaw and Joel Robles to sign another contract. And Joel Robles, like I said, I've already explained that one. I think he's really good and he should stay. And Adam Forshaw as well. I was actually a bit of an advocate for starting Adam Forshaw in the Championship, and it sounds a bit crazy because of all the injuries and stuff, but providing that he could stay fit, he's actually one of our tidiest and most technical midfielders. He's so good at keeping the ball, keeping the pendulum ticking. There's a reason why when Bielsa came in, he identified Forshaw as what was going to be one of his best midfielders, because of the way he plays, and what Bielsa wanted to do was keep the ball, keep things ticking over, keep possession without passing it to the opposition and making stupid mistakes like that. And I think Forshaw's very good at that sort of thing. A very pendulum-like midfielder, if you will, keeps things ticking from side to side, and keeps the ball, doesn't do anything stupid. Sometimes has a little bit of a flash of brilliance, drops a shoulder, does a couple of players, and then what he does well after that is find feet and not go too crazy and think he can run all the way to goal and score. So I'm really hoping that Forshaw and Robles get another contract. I wouldn't imagine that they would offer them the chance to come back for pre-season if they weren't going to do that. But other than that, there actually really wasn't many outgoings on the retained list in terms of people we've actually released. But we are waiting in the next coming days to find out who's going to be sold, who's going to be coming in, etc., and who the manager is. So there's plenty more content on the way regarding all of that stuff, and that's if I can survive recording videos in the hottest room in the world. As you can probably tell, I'm sweating a little bit. But yeah, thanks for watching this one. I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately with more news, hopefully, because it has gone a bit quiet of late, but I think that's a good sign rather than a bad one. So thanks for watching Leeds Lately, and I'll see you next time.